Hopefully this is working. I had a little lunch break and I have returned to do a coding challenge. And I'm waiting to sort of see out of the corner of my eye if the YouTube stream starts to pop up. I see it popping up, which makes it appear to me that this is working. So I am going to take a minute to get set up here, perhaps introduce myself, although I did that this morning. Let people sort of trickle on in. If you are watching this video as an archive on YouTube, I would encourage you to check the description, as there will be links to various time codes of things happening in this video as opposed to this rambling introduction. And there also, hopefully out of this video, will be an edited version of it that will also appear a little bit later. My name is Dan Schiffman. I am here in the afternoon. I did some tutorials this morning on Git and GitHub. And now I am back to do a coding challenge. And I'm seeing that people are here. I'm going to not run updates on my computer. I'm going to just check and see if Twitch appears to be working. Looks like it is. And so let me just dive right in, okay? Not a lot of exposition. I have a little less than an hour, so we'll sort of see. So I was poking through somebody had mentioned, a couple things have been requested for a coding challenge. One, this idea of procedural textures. Okay, so that's topic number one. Topic number two, procedural terrain. And both of these ideas can be implemented in the same way, one being rendered as a two-dimensional image that gets textured on something, another as an actual two-dimensional plane in a 3D world with perhaps some depth to it. So I was digging around and I found this example. This is actually not the example. I had an example from the Nature of Code book associated with Perlin Noise. And in a few minutes, I kind of quickly adapted the example to do a few different things and created this. So what I would like to do is reprogram this from scratch. And I'm not 100% sure I want to do it entirely from scratch. I might make a video tutorial where I start with a little bit of a foundation. I'm also thinking about if it makes sense, just checking the chat and sound. I'm also thinking about if it makes sense to do two versions, two videos. One would be basically doing the piece that you need from this, which is a two-dimensional Perlin Noise on its own, and then taking that code and bringing it into 3D to create this kind of terrain. At the same time, I kind of want this all to be one video. Now, I was looking at my code for this, and I want to explore something before I make the video. I was noticing that the way that I render this terrain is with quads. So in other words, it is just a whole lot of rectangles, not rectangles, quads placed next to each other, and the vertices are, if you imagine them all flat, the vertices are all moving up and down to create this kind of bumpy texture. So what I wanted to look at is I think that I might be able to make the code a bit more efficient if I used a quad strip. And when I make it from scratch, so what I want to, and maybe some of you who are watching might have some tips for me. So I just want to look at the processing reference really quickly. And I'm going to go to reference, and I'm going to go to beginShape. And I'm going to look here, and I'm going to look at quad strip. So because quads, what I need to do with a quad is set all four vertices. And with a quad strip, is it setting it across? 30, 20. That's x is 30, y is 20. Then x is 30, 75. Wait, no, that's down at the bottom. Then 50, 20. Then 50, 75. So it's doing it like this. Let's see if I can modify my example to use quad strip. So great question. Christopher Akiki asks, what does procedural refer to exactly? So what I mean by that is the terrain, the texture or the terrain, where how is generated through an algorithm, as opposed to you could hand draw or hand design. I generally you could hand design a terrain saying like, oh, it's going to be like this. You know, you could sort of sculpt it or manually set all the points or use an image, some sort of image to generate what the terrain should be. But this is through an algorithm, that algorithm being Perlin Noise. I generally use triangles for this kind of, that makes total sense to use triangles. So in that case, triangle fan or triangle strip, I think is what I want. Because I want to go across. So let me try it with triangle strip. So let me see here. So I want to simplify this for a second. So I'm going to work this out, and then I'm doing this sort of backwards. So if I run this, you can see what this is. This is just static version of what I'm making. And I can actually even take the rotation out. And you can see it looks like this with no rotation. And in fact, let me also, just to be really specific about this, boy, what have I done here? Let me take this out. Okay, so what I'm doing is making this, and let me, sorry, I'm just trying to simplify this to understand how triangle strip works. Let's run this one more time. So you can see, this is I basically want to turn this thing, this is what I'm starting with, and I'm turning this on its side, and then I'm raising various points to make it a bumpy thing. And this would work, but it was suggested to me in the chat to use triangles, which I think makes sense. And I have not started. The coding challenge, by the way, is going to be terrain generation, and I haven't started doing it yet. I'm figuring something out before I start doing it, just so you know. So what I want to turn this into now is I don't know how the triangle strip stuff works. So I'm kind of hacking through an example I made before, and I'm going to say triangle strip. So if I just did this, by the way, what am I going to get? Kind of a crazy mess of stuff. So that's not correct. And what I'm going to do also is just do like a 1 by 1. So this is what okay, so hold on. Okay, I'm figuring this out. So what I think that I want to do is and I'm going to take out the Z is what I meant to do. So what if I just do the top row, then the next row. Oops. And I'm going to do the top row and 2 Ys. All right. Hold on, I'm figuring this out. Oh, yeah, okay. 0, 0, translate. Does that work? Oh, maybe it doesn't work. Oh, I don't want the begin shape. The begin shape is around the whole thing. Right, because the triangle strip is one giant shape now. Okay, there, I got something. I just want to, let's try this again. And so, okay, hold on a sec, everybody. I want this to be at X. Get rid of this. And X plus, this should be at Y. And this should be at Y. Do I have a scale here or something? X times scale. So I'm just figuring this out here. How does the triangle strip work? I should really just look this up instead of trying to do it haphazardly. There we go. Okay, now I'm getting something. So that is not right. Y, okay. So can I go across 2 triangles instead of a rectangle? So you have 4 points, P1, P2, P3, P4 for a square. You have a triangle of 3. I need to make multiple triangle strips. You can't make the whole terrain from just one. Okay, good, thank you. So each row is a triangle strip. So those of you who had done this before, let me ask this question to you guys in the chat who are helping me with this. What I'm assuming I need to do, so this is what I have. Points go across like this, and points go across like this. And then this is a triangle strip where I should get this, right? So what order is the vertices? I was thinking I could go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Or maybe I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like something like that. Can I go boom, 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 boom? I don't know what the order to do the vertices. Somebody tell me in the chat. You need a triangle strip is like a line. Yeah, okay. So we're going to do one row, just one row. And we're going to say begin shape for every x. And if I do it like this, what do I get? I get everything going across. Now let me just check these vertices. This should be at 0. No, not 0. This should be at y times scale, and this should be at y like this. I'm going across. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. I'm going to be figuring this out the whole time. Up and down, up and down. Gregor SN says up, down, up, down. So this is, plus. There we go. There we go. Thank you. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Perfect. Okay, I got it. That makes sense. So now, if I say, I forgot what this was. Do I have the number of rows? This should be, are these in a variable? What's the chance? Oh, excellent. Okay, so that's working. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And then, okay, perfect. I'm just curious if I put in this now. This is going to be better. Whoa, okay, interesting. I didn't get everything in the right place. Oh, because this needs to go up by 2 each time then, right? Because if I do top, bottom, then I got to go up by 2. Let's see, right? Whoop. Oh, but I'm in the wrong. So the center, okay. This is harder than it's funny, I had this totally working. Okay, okay, so let me think about this again. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay. So I do the first row, and then I skip, and I do the next row. Oh no, the next row has the bottom one connected to the next one. So it should be no skipping. I should go to the next one, and I wonder if the Z is off somehow. So, oh right, of course. So this is, okay, so first of all, I'm in the wrong place. I translate width divided by height. Get rid of this for a second. Okay, so what did I get wrong? That's not matching because why? So the hip bone is, thank you. Y plus 1. The second one is the bottom row, and this should be not to the very bottom. Thank you. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. There we go. We're back with triangle strips now. Let me just put this back in. And excellent. So what am I, width divided by 2? Oh, minus the, so I need to translate based on the size of the landscape, which I'll deal with later, because I'm going to program this from scratch anyway. I mean, let me fix this one to get this working, and then I'm going to build it up for doing it from scratch. But because I'm not going to do it in an object, but let me just see, minus land W divided by 2 minus land H divided by 2, and the landscape, oh, it does have a W and an H already. That's brilliant. Divided by 2. Okay, so let's see here. This should do it. Yeah, okay, so now it's in the middle. And if I go back to adding this rotation in, we should see it looks like a landscape like that. And I probably want it to be a little further down, like something like this. You know. And then, there we go. And then make it much bigger. Oh, the triangle strip is much slower. It worked with my quads. I guess I better do the quads. Can it really not render that? Or did it just go off screen? Let's see. Make it wider. What did I must have typed something weird in. What happens when, oh, is the Y, so anyway, I'm going to start, this is a part I can figure out later. I'm like, because I'm off, but I'll do it correctly when I build it up again from scratch. I just wanted to know how the triangle strip worked. Okay, upper or lower vertices be from the, okay, so here we go. I guess I should fix, no, you know what, I should make this one work because it's a visual reference. So, okay, let me figure this out. Where are these going? These are going from x times scale, y times scale plus scale, x is columns, rows, columns W is held, z is new float, z gets calculated through this mechanism. That makes sense. Okay, and then what am I losing when I start making it super wide? This should be the center minus its width and height, and then zoom out, right? Like, oh, whoops, I don't want this. I'm going to start. Okay, that makes sense. I want to get this totally working, and then I'm gonna explain it and build it up from scratch. So what happened when I made y super big? Did it just, okay, so that's fine. And then it's the rotation that's the issue. So let's make an angle that is mapped to mouse x. Mouse x goes from a 0 to width to 0 to 2 pi. So let's see what happens here. And then let's rotate x by that angle. Why did it go out of view? So that it has to do with like my point of view here. So let me zoom way further out. So you can see it is, oh, of course. It's rotating around I want to rotate around the center. So I really want to, okay, I got it. How annoying. Okay, so I want to leave this here. So this needs to stay here, and it's, right? But I need to draw everything. This is what I wanted, because I want to see it looking like this. But I just need to move it over and shift it down a little bit, which shouldn't be too hard. Like this, I should be able to just shift the whole thing down like this. Right, that's what it's going to look like. And now in here, the location of the vertices is really minus w divided by 2, minus w divided by 2, minus h divided by 2, minus h divided by 2. So this should then recenter it back. There we go. That's what I wanted it to look like. So now I can go back and just hard code in that angle. Hard code in that angle. And there we go. And now I can add back in the thing where I adjust the terrain so that it looks like I'm flying over it. There we go. Ooh, triangle strip is faster. Okay, so this is ultimately what I want it to look like. Let's let me make it a little bit further back. Oh, it's at 4. Yeah, and a little bit wider. What happens if I do this? Just curious to see what sort of speed I'm going to get from this thing. There we go. So that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm ready, hopefully, to build this thing and explain it. This is what I want to make it look like you're flying over this infinite terrain scene. Okay, everybody. I got 32 people watching. I'm going to check Twitch. There are 2 people watching on Twitch and 32 people watching on YouTube. I need to get some water, I just realized. So enjoy this terrain for a minute. I'm going to go get some water. You're going to go with me to get water, even though you can't see me. I'm talking to myself as I walk to get some water. So I'm going to have to explain a few different concepts in this particular video. One of which is Perlin Noise. But I do have a Perlin Noise standalone video, which I can link to. So I've got to explain Perlin Noise. I've got to explain a little bit about 3D and triangle strips. I have to, and that's really it, actually. That's sort of like the main thing. You know, I was going to try to do it as a, I think I'm going to try to do this in one video, and then what I can do is if there are certain aspects of the video that are confusing, like I could make a separate video that goes through some of the Perlin Noise stuff in more detail. So I'm definitely going to need to draw some diagrams for this, because it's going to be, anytime I do anything in 3D, it's going to be confusing. And so I'm going to do this one in processing, but I'm going to try to make, there's been a lot of updates to P5.js's WebGL recently, so I'm going to see if I can redo it, also using P5.js, and see how that goes. Okay, so if you've got any questions, I'm just about ready to start. Please ask them in the chat. It is 3:26. I'm hoping to be done with this by 4, because I've got to go then. So we're going to see if in 35, this is going to be a 35-minute challenge, if I can do this in 35 minutes. And I do have this example to refer to just in case. Okay, let me just check the chat. By the way, the nature of code just got activated on Cadenza. Andrew Kim asks, are you going to be actively grading or in the forums? So the grading all happens through their system. They have an automatic way of doing it. It's really not, and there's peer assessment for as well. But I am definitely going to be actively in the forums as much as I can. So I will be there. Tweet at me if there's stuff that I should be taking a look at. I want to try to be involved with it as much as possible. Okay, here we go. So let me get a new sketch up. And, I don't want to close that. Sorry, hold on. I'm just getting set up here. I need setup. I need draw. Perlin Noise Terrain. And I'm going to save that on the desktop under Coding Rainbow. Perlin Noise Terrain. And size 600 P3D. Background 0. And let's see what we've got so far. This is looking good. This will be our start. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm ready. Can you also make the terrain cube-based like in Minecraft? Oh, nothing would be more thrilling to me than to do some Minecraft stuff. I really got to get to that at some point. I need a week off to just only work on figuring out that. But anyway, yes, I would love to do a cube-based one. Not today, though. This will be a start. Okay, so let me get this back up. And I love how they just appear in the back like that. It's kind of a cool effect. Okay, so here we go. Drink a little water. Right. Oh, I just want to put a timer on so I can, you just bear with me for a second. This is not so that I can, let's see if I can do this in a brief moment. Play the Jeopardy music. Sing to yourself. Sources. I'm adding this timer thing. I probably shouldn't do this because this is going to take too long right now. If this, okay, that should be good. And then if I add it to, okay, and then if I add, I'm going to try this really briefly, and if it doesn't, you know what, this is not going to work. Oh, there it is. Oops. I'm going to do this really, really briefly. Stick this up here, and then I'm going to, I'm almost done here. I guess got to crop it. Whoops, leave that there. Bottom, crop it there, and come back a little bit. That should do it. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I have a little timer. Now, where am I? How come I'm not here anymore? I've disappeared. Oh, why do I try to change this stuff? What happened to me? Oh, I messed up. I messed up. Everything's going to be fine. And did I really, really, really screw up? Sorry, everyone. I think I really screwed up. Delete this. I'm coming back to life. There I am. By the way, this is the raw view now. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. By the way, this is what. Hey, look at me. This is my raw view of this is me with the green screen. I screwed up and trying to add this timer. I deleted the green screen by accident. So I'm going to key this back out. It'll just take a second. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to here, use Chrome key. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to shrink myself. I don't think you can see me doing this live. And crop myself a little bit on the right. So now this should be, I'm kind of small, but I think maybe that'll be good. I'm smaller now. Am I here? Do you see me? I'm smaller. Is that okay? Is everything looking fine? Uh-oh. My YouTube froze. Oh, no. It didn't freeze. It's just behind. Okay, I gotta get... Okay, everyone, here we go. We're going to do this coding challenge. Look, you can almost see my pants now in this shot. I don't know how I got lower. I am wearing pants, in case you were wondering. I do have legs. There's water here. Everything's a disaster all of a sudden. Okay, hold on. Here we go. We're going to start. I have a little water spill on the table over here. Hold on. We've got to fix one thing here. And everything's going to be fine in one moment. There we go. Okay. And now I'm back. Okay? Here we go. Laptop is visible. It is not visible anymore. Troll's not in sight. Okay. So I'm going to start that timer. And then I'm going to go. Hello, welcome to another coding challenge with me, Dan. I don't know. Maybe you know my name, maybe you don't. I'm here to program this particular simulation from scratch. So what this is kind of like an infinite procedurally generated terrain. It looks like you're flying over it. So I'm going to use the processing programming environment. It's a Java-based environment. You can get it at processing.org. Check the links for various things you might need in the description of this video. But without further ado, I'm going to get started. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. So what do I need? So first of all, I have a sketch set up. I've got setup and I've got draw, size, and background. That's the only thing. So I've got this blank canvas right now. And notice in setup, I'm also using P3D because I need a 3D environment. So what I need before I can really do anything is I need to make the terrain itself as just like a flat grid. So how does that work? Basically, I could draw a giant rectangle, and that would be my terrain. But instead of drawing a giant rectangle, what I want to draw is a lot of tiny rectangles next to each other. And I'm saying rectangle, and I guess I really mean square, like this. Because I want my terrain to be lots and lots of shapes all attached to each other and next to each other. And in fact, a good way to do this in 3D is to use something called a triangle strip. Triangle strip, you know. What this means is I can say vertex, 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 vertex over and over again. And what the computer is going to do is connect all these vertices with triangles, triangular polygons. And all connected together, you'll see this appearance of a mesh. And then what I'm going to do is once I have this mesh, is I'm going to take each point as this is where my screen, right? This flat whiteboard is my screen. I'm going to extrude some of them, pull them out. Some of them are going to get pulled higher. Some of them are going to get pulled lower. So it has a mountainous-like quality. So before I can get that part, though, I just need this triangular mesh to appear in the window. So let's first make that happen. So the way to make that happen is I need to have a nested loop, right, for every single point on this grid. So I'm going to start with x equals 0, x is less than, and I'm going to need to know how many columns and how many rows. So I'm going to say x is less than columns, and then I'm going to say y equals 0, y is less than rows. OK, so now columns and rows don't exist as variables, so I'm going to add them, columns, rows. And what I'm going to do is also I need to figure out, a good variable that I'm going to need is how big is each of these squares? How many pixels wide, how many pixels high, and it'll be the same number. Let's make that 20. So I'm going to add another variable. I've got this timer going. I've been doing this for 2 months. See how long this takes. So hopefully not more than 30 minutes. I'm going to make a variable called SCL, kind of standing for scale. And I'm going to set that equal to 20. And I'm really keeping an eye on my audio to make sure the audio doesn't cut out. OK. OK. So now, what am I doing? OK, so first, just to make sure things are working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some sort of arbitrary width and height. And I'm going to make those the same as the window. Just for now, it's going to change later. But I'm just sort of being simple about things. And then I'm going to, the number of columns is the width of my grid divided by that scale. And the number of rows is the height of my grid divided by that scale. And just to make sure things are working, let's just draw a rectangle. A rectangle at where? X times scale, y times scale, and at that size. And I'm going to say stroke 255 and no fill. So what I should have so far, if things are working right, is a perfect grid. So this is a good sign. I now have this grid. But I can't draw it as rectangles. I could, but to manipulate it, to make it a terrain, to make it all bumpy, I want these to be triangles, a triangle strip. So I'm going to change what I'm doing. And I'm going to say, now let's think about this. My triangle strip. Now I could have my triangles go down, but mentally it's just easier for me to think of everything as rows. So I want to do the top row, next row, next row, next row, next row, next row of triangles. So I need the outer loop to be y, because first start with y, do all the x's. Go to the next y, do all the x's. So I realized I want to take this y rows and put this as the outer loop. And then what I need to do is each row will be its own triangle strip. So by the way, where is this coming from? I'm going to go to processing.org under reference and under beginShape. And I'm going to zoom in here. See, so what I'm doing is I'm using beginShape and endShape, which allows you to set a bunch of vertices and you get a shape. But if I scroll down, this is really what I want. I want this triangle strip. So I want to set a whole bunch of vertices and have it all connected magically with triangles. Okay? So now I should be able to, if I go back to the code, say for every single row, beginShape and then endShape. And of course, I don't want to just say generic beginShape. I want to say beginShape, and what I'm intending to make is a triangle strip. And then instead of making rectangles, what I want to do is just set, and I'm going to set this up here, the stroke and fill outside, just to, instead of drawing rectangles, what I want to do is set vertices. So the first vertex is going to be at x times scale, y times scale, and it's going across. So if I were to just run this right now, I'm just getting these lines across because I didn't actually make the triangles. What I need to do is create the vertices like this. What I just did was set vertices like this. Vertex, 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 vertex. I need to do up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So I need to do y and y plus 1 for each loop. So how do I do that? All I need to do is add another vertex. Y plus 1 times scale. There we go. This should work. Please work. There we go. So now you can see I have this beautiful mesh of triangles. So this is the building block from which I can manipulate. Now, it doesn't look very 3D. I've done everything in 2D right now. So let's at least take a moment to rotate it on an axis. So if I right now you're seeing, where's a prop? This is my Kleenex. You're seeing this, and it's just flat facing you. I want to rotate it like this so it looks like you're flying over it. So to do that, we want to rotate along what axis? This is the x-axis. I want to rotate along this x-axis. So I'm going to say right here, rotate x and like pi divided by 3, which is like 60 degrees. So if I run this, where did it go? So we've got some problems here. The issue is I've drawn everything relative to the top left. So if everything's drawn relative to the top left, everything is rotating around the top left, and I've just rotated it completely out of view. So what I need to do is have everything drawn relative to the center of the window. So I should translate to the center. Ah, look, there it is. And I can see it now. I can see this plane that I might be traveling over. But it's shifted off and to the right. It's because 0, 0 is in the center, which is what I want. But the triangles start at 0, 0. So remember I have this variable. And I'm going to make these global variables. W and H. I want every single triangle to be like offset back by that width divided by 2. So if I go back to here, I wonder if I could probably actually just do a whole nother translation. Let's just do another translation of negative width after I rotate, width divided by 2, negative height divided by 2. I think that will do the trick. And there we go. So this is what I want. I now have this almost infinite, it's not infinite, but I have this terrain of triangles that is on an angle mapped. But look at this. I'm only at 8 minutes. This could possibly be done in 12. I should never say how long this is going to take because it's only going to take longer. But we're doing really well. Now, what do I need to do here? Well, I've really gotten super far. The only thing I need to do is take each one of those and like pull some of the vertices up. So let's just do something goofy, like let's make all of them random. So how do I pull them up? Well, each vertex only has an x and a y, right? Remember, this is the mesh that I'm drawing. It's exactly this, but just turns on its side. But if I want to take this point and pull it up a little bit, so when it's turned on its side, it looks like it's going up along the y-axis. It's really changing the z value. The z value for all of those vertices has been 0 all along. So let's go now and say, what if I were to do like random negative 100, 100 for all the z values? What's going to happen here? Let's run this and see. Look at that. Okay, well, I can see it's kind of going crazy. 100, I guess, was too much. Let's make it between negative 10 and 10. Let's run it again. There, you can see that I now have this mesh. And maybe I'll make the frame rate 1. So you can kind of like just sort of catch it for a second. Is it running? Yeah. Whoops, that didn't happen. Hey, is frame rate broken in, woo, look at that. I wonder if frame rate is broken in P3D. That's really weird. I don't know why that's not working. I'm going to have to investigate that and maybe file a bug report. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point of what you're seeing is this now has this quality of a terrain because each point is higher or lower. Now the issue is I need to have some consistent way of doing this. So I think what would be useful is for me to have a data structure that stores all the z values, right? The x and y values, the light is, I knocked over a light. The x and y values, and I'm probably going to have everything messed up now. The x and y value, physical comedy, or that's not really comedy, just physical mishaps. The x and y values are fixed. They're never going to change. The z values, however, might change. There's some sort of variable calculated procedural. Some algorithm has to generate those z values. So I need another data structure to keep track of all those z values. And what I think I would like to do is use a two-dimensional array. A two-dimensional array would allow me to store for every single spot here some z value calculated according to some algorithm. So let's go back, and I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to say, and I'm going to make these floating point values. So this is a this is how I, in Java, in processing, how I define a two-dimensional array. And I'm going to call it, I don't know what to call it, landscape, terrain, I'll call it terrain, is a new, and you know what? I need the two-dimensional array to have the number of spots as the number of column and rows. So I want to actually initialize it after I calculate the columns and rows. And so a two-dimensional array with this many columns and this many rows. Now, what can I do? But I can actually, in setup right now, I could just say I equals, I'll use x again, x, and you know what? I just need this exact, same nested loop. And instead of drawing anything, what I'm doing here is I'm saying terrain index x, index y equals some random value. There we go. So now I'm picking a random set of values in setup. And then here, instead of drawing them as random, I'm going to say, get those z values. I want the z value at x, y. And then what do I want here? I want the z value at x, y plus 1. Remember, I'm doing vertex, 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 vertex. So I need those z values at y and y plus 1. So now if I run this, we should see, whoops, I got an error. Array out of bounds exception. Oh, OK, so of course I got an array out of bounds exception because I'm doing every single row and the row below it. And when I get to the bottom, there's no row below it. So I need to say rows minus 1 for this loop. I can only go to the second to last row. So now if I run this again, we should have, there we go. So now you can see I've got the terrain. And it doesn't, you can see that it's not like a terrain that's filling my view, but that's sort of an easy problem to solve because, you know, that's why I have these variables here. I can say, well, let's just make it much wider and much longer. And now I have my terrain filling my view. So how do I make it look, though, like I'm flying over it and have it appear infinite? Tricky question. Well, here's a way to do it. There's a bunch of different strategies, and maybe I'll make another video that picks up right from here to do different ways. But I'm going to use something. You can see this random terrain is not so great. Like, it doesn't really look very much like a mountainous-like quality. What I want is something that's more organic, fractal-like, nature-like, so to speak. And what I could do is use something called Perlin Noise. So I have a separate video, which I think I go over Perlin Noise that I'll link to. But I'm going to just briefly discuss how Perlin Noise would work in this context. And I don't know what time I'm at, but I'm going to keep going. OK, so Perlin Noise. Perlin Noise is a way of getting smooth random numbers. Meaning, random numbers, if I think of random numbers in one dimension, random numbers that I might ask for over time that are similar to the one I picked before it. So if I want to get kind of if I wanted to move something around the screen kind of fluidly, I could use Perlin Noise to pick its location. But what I want to do is actually use two-dimensional Perlin Noise. Meaning, think of a space of numbers in 2 dimensions. So if I have a checkerboard and I were just to pick a random number between 0 and 10, or between negative and 10 for every spot on the checkerboard, I would get exactly this. Every single spot on this board is a random terrain value, but that's not what I want. What I want is to pick a z value for here, and then I want all the values around it to be somewhat similar to it. And then for this one, I want all the values around it to be somewhat similar to it. So as things move up and down, they move up and down smoothly. So I think this probably merits a longer discussion about Perlin Noise. I'll refer you to my other video and ask questions in the comments, and maybe I'll make one that demonstrates this more specifically, maybe a video just about this idea. But I'm going to kind of move on from that being the sort of conceptual idea. Now, how does it work? If I call the noise function in processing, there is a noise function in processing. Noise, the word noise really means randomness, like audio noise. But random in processing means randomness. Noise means Perlin noise, named for Ken Perlin, who invented this particular algorithm. Now, noise, if I give it to noise, whenever I call the noise, behind the scenes, when you start processing, it's almost as if this infinite plane of numbers was created in 2 dimensions with noise values available to you. And you can give it any particular x, y value and get a particular noise value. And this function will always give you a value between 0 and 1. So actually, something that I can just do right now, it's going to look a little bit weird, is I can just go in here, and I can say, here, instead of using random, what I want to do is use the noise function and just give me a noise value for every x and y. And then I also want to map the noise value, which goes between 0 and 1, to some value between like -100 and 100. So let's run this now and see what I get. So this is starting to look a little bit better. And I'm going to just make it a little less tall. This is starting to look a little bit better. Maybe there is a slight more consistency to this, but it's still pretty random. And the reason why it's still pretty random is that the numbers that I picked, I'm asking for noise at 0, 0, and then I'm asking for noise at 1, 0, then noise at 2, 0. Down here I'm asking for noise at 2, 1. I'm making a big leap into the noise space with these whole integer numbers. And actually, the noise algorithm wants you to use small gradations. So the actual pixel x, y values doesn't really work very well to be the values that are passed into the noise function. So the way I'm going to do that instead is by creating my own variable. I'm going to say x offset as a float starting at 0. And that should actually go in here. And I'm going to say y offset as a float starting at 0. X offset, y offset. And then I'm going to use those values for the noise function as the things are going to pass through. And then I don't have to live with the x is 0 plus 1 plus 1. I can increment those separately. So here I can say something like x offset equals 0.01. And that's what I want to do inside this loop. And then after that loop for every y, I want to increase that by 0.01. So we can see now that my values, whoa. So whoops, camera went off. You can see now that my noise is much too smooth. I'm moving so slowly. My gradations within the noise space are so small that the actual terrain is very, very flat. So let's change that to like 0.1 and 0.1 and see how that does. Much better. You can start to see I have this sort of smooth mountainous region now. Oh, we're really getting something. This is much better. And maybe I can increase this now to sort of make some of the mountains a little bit higher. You can see, ooh, that's pretty good too. And I could also even go through it faster and maybe shrink this down to 100. I have a problem where I tend to play with like values forever, but you can see now that we're getting something much more like actual terrain because I have these smooth random values. So now I've got this terrain that appears somewhat infinite, like I'm flying over it, but I'm not moving over it. Well, here's the kind of amazing thing. So I could start going down the road of like camera work and translation and then like adding to the end of it as I'm flying over it. But with Perlin Noise, there's a really, really quick trick that I can do. Let's think about how this might work. Right? Remember, this is my flat terrain and I have the noise values. So the noise values are getting picked based on x off, which are the values along the x-axis, and y off, which are the values along the x-axis. What if my x offset values never change? I want to fly this way, right? I want to fly over it. I want to fly along the y-axis. Y off always starts at 0. What if where y starts just changed a little bit each time? So that what I'm seeing far off in the distance starts to appear as if it's moving close. So nothing's actually moving. I'm just adjusting the noise. I'm moving the noise space along where I'm starting in that two-dimensional plane of noise. So if I come back here, now I've got to recalculate this in draw. So I've got to take this whole loop in draw, and I'll just put it at the beginning. And I'm going to run it. So it looks the same. Now all I need to do is say, OK, this value needs to change, not start at 0 every single time. So I need another I'm going to create a variable called flying, and it's going to be 0. And I'm going to have y offset start at flying. And in every cycle through draw, flying is going to increase a little bit. Oh, I'm flying backwards. So let's have flying decrease a little bit. And now I'm flying forwards. Although it almost doesn't look like I'm flying. It looks just like it's undulating. But I'm pretty sure if I make this a lot faster, it's going to appear much more like I'm flying. So you can see there's some goofiness happening in the background. It's kind of a nice effect. If I extended how much I'm drawing further out, for example, if I made this like 1600, and I could also think about translating a little bit down so that it's a little bit lower. I think plus 50 would do that. Then I need to make it wider if I'm extending it further out. I gotta stop tinkering with this. I'll let you tinker with this yourself. But changing you can sort of see now that it's almost as if there's a curved world and the mountains are like appearing over. So I think if you play with the values, play with the positioning, play with the rotation, you can, and also of course play with the color. You don't have to draw this as a mesh. You can do a variety of things with this. So I'm hoping this helps you understand a little bit about how 3D works and 3D shapes works, a little bit more about Perlin Noise, and also just sort of some creative exploration for what you might be able to do with this and what types of projects you might be able to make. So thanks I was just checking to see if the audio is still working, and I had a panic moment where it wasn't. But thank you for watching. This was about 22 minutes, and I think I made this example in 22 minutes, which I'm very pleased about. Okay, and I'll see you soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Okay, that was the end of that. It is 3:56, which is perfect timing. I need to get going in about 5 or 10 minutes. So I'll stick around for a little bit if anyone has any questions that they want to ask. Getting Langston's ant requested. I feel like this morning with the GitHub tutorials was kind of a bit of a mess. I feel like this was a little bit more smooth. So, and I think this worked well for me to have an example that I kind of like had made before, and figure a few things out so I know how it's going to work, but not actually really like have done. I still had to figure it out while I was doing it because I didn't have exactly in my head. Okay. Oh, I'm so pleased that people seem to like this one. In Twitch, in the Twitch chat, Galva Bart asks, what course is this from? So this is not from any course. This is just me making arbitrary YouTube tutorials for things you can make with processing in P5.js. However, I will mention that I think, that just went live. This really goes along with this course, which is now an online course that you can sign up for that is supposedly open. You should have gotten a welcome message. You should be able to watch the videos of it now. Can I watch a video of it if I go here? No. Would I like to enroll? I don't want to like sign in on my account here because who knows what will happen. But this kind of goes along with this particular course if you're interested on cadenze.com. All right. Any other questions in the chat? Does the order of the nested loops? Okay, sorry. Andrew Kim asks, does the order of the nested loops matter? I noticed you initially started the sketch with columns, then rows within it, but later switched it. It doesn't actually. You could do this exact program with going up or down. I just chose, because what does matter is that I kind of know what I'm doing so that I'm consistent with how I'm doing various calculations. So, because if I were going down, I would need to do the vertices up, down, over, up, down, probably, or up, over, down, over. So because I was doing the triangle strip, up, down, up, down, up, down, I want to go across, all the way across the row and then down. So in that case, Y needs to be the outer loop. But I could invert it and just change other things in my code, and it would probably work just fine. But I needed a mental model, and I need to be consistent with that mental model. Okay. I'm excited to see that everybody's already enrolled. I'm signing off for today. I kind of just want to stay. Like this felt good. When I do a tutorial that like works and I kind of like went through consistently, it feels so good. I'm going to sign off for today because I've got to go to a 7-year-old's tennis class to watch some tennis. But I will be back on Thursday morning, probably around 11 Eastern. That seems to be a time that's working for me, and it also seems to be good, like West Coast, East Coast, Europe seems to fit into that time frame somewhat reasonably. But I would love to hear what times are most convenient for people. And so Thursday, maybe I'll consider doing another coding challenge and some more GitHub tutorials. I kind of want to get back to the Connect, sound. Everyone's been asking for sound. Maybe I'll try to do sound on Thursday. But tweet me your suggestions and votes. Maybe I'll do a Twitter poll, that sort of thing. And I'll see you guys soon. Matthew Van Den Hovels asks, can I self-advertise my channel? You absolutely can. If you have a channel of processing tutorials, paste it in and I'll give it a shout out. Terrain generation tutorials. Yeah, I would be happy to do more. 3D trees I would be happy to do. Caves, so many good suggestions. These are great suggestions from everybody. So I got to keep a list of all this stuff, and I look forward to seeing you on the next live stream Thursday. Send me your tweets with questions, and I can respond there. If you have complex, you can also ask questions in the YouTube comments. Another good way to get in touch with a question is to post it to the processing forum, and then tweet me the link to your forum post. That's the easiest way if I'm going to get into a discussion where other people can chime in and with pasting code and that sort of thing. And that sort of thing. Okay, and I'll see you guys soon. I hate to shut this off, but it's 4 o'clock and I've done this a total of 3.5 hours today, so I guess I should feel good about that.